Now will we see the magic?
All right, where's Murray? Okay, who is it?
This is Jesus, kid.
Know then that it is the year 10,191.
Yes, we are bored. We're all bored now.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Welcome to Mary vs. the Movies with your host, Mary Jones.
And Dennis Lane.
And this week we are talking about the 1989 classic, well, all right, called classic?
It's classic.
Well-known, arguably considered one of the best bad movies of all time, film, Roadhouse.
Not that bad.
the Patrick Swayze magnum opus, which I, of course, as is the premise of this show, I have never seen, and yet I'm going to first describe what I think the film is about before we watch it, then we will watch it, and then we will react to the film. You've seen the film because you've quoted it at me.
I quote that one line almost all the time.
Yeah, even though I have no idea why he keeps saying...
Pain don't hurt?
Yeah, that line.
Because it don't.
What's the opposite of a tautology?
I don't know.
Well, pain don't hurt pretty much fits that description. So what do I think happens in this movie? Because I don't really know a lot about this movie, but I do know a tiny bit.
All right.
A tiny bit. Patrick Swayze plays a bouncer in a roadhouse. And he is, I guess, an unusually... Boy, that sounds wrong. He went to NYU. I know that is a plot point. I don't know why it's a plot point. I don't know why that's important, but apparently the whole idea is that Patrick Swayze, his character, went to college and now he is a bouncer in a roadhouse.
Now, your father was a bouncer.
My father was a bouncer. My uncle was a bouncer. I have I have uncles who were bartenders. In fact, my dad, his goal, before he died, he wanted to quit working for the Pennsylvania Turnpike and retire and move us down the shore so that he could go back to being a bouncer in Margate, which is a town on the same island as Atlantic City. Mm-hmm. So I was supposed to be a Jersey girl.
Yeah.
And instead, my father, he died of cancer when I was 7, and my mom, who is a nurse, got a job out in rural Pennsylvania, and my life went in a different trajectory. But yes, I have a great affection for bars. When I was a kid, my dad, when my mother would be working on the weekends, my dad his idea of babysitting was, hey, let's go up to the bar up the street and I'll sit and watch the Flyers or the Phillies or whatever, and you can drink Coca-Colas and play with the shuffleboard machine. And let me tell you, that is one of my treasured memories of childhood, was being in a bar when I'm 5 years old and playing with, whatever the different machines in the bar. I make jokes, but it is actually a very warm memory for me. Sure. So I have a lot of affection for bars. I don't know if the joke of the movie is that this is a bouncer who is smart, but I've known people who worked at bars who were, whether they were book smart or whether they were street smart, they were still intelligent people. So that's not weird to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I know one other thing. I think Sam Elliott is his boss. But I don't know if he'll have his mustache. I feel like maybe this is a movie without Sam Elliott's amazing mustache. So I don't know much about Roadhouse, except that it's Patrick Swayze. He's a bouncer with a college degree, and I think his boss is Sam Elliott. And that's honestly all I know about the movie. All I know is that people have written books about this film. People have made there are lots of podcasts I've tackled at some point. You've quoted it at me. It is, it has kind of a Plan 9 status without being considered as bad the way Plan 9 is. I think it's more, I've seen it held up as a good bad movie. although I have the feeling it's not considered bad in the same way that a lot of bad movies from the 50s are held up as bad, like Plan 9, where it's just incompetently made. I have a feeling this is more of a meathead bad. Does that make sense?
Sure. Now, what do you think the bad guys are? If there
I
are
have
bad
no
guys?
idea. I don't know. I have no idea what the bad guys. See, that's the thing. Like, obviously, there must be some sort of like element that he's fighting, because otherwise, why would he? Well, I mean, he's a bouncer, so he's paid to throw out riffraff. So I assume that there are riffraff involved. I don't know, but it's in the 80s, so Okay, so all right. Thinking about films from the 80s, who would be the bad guy in a movie in films in the 80s? Probably people who are pushing cocaine. So I assume there's maybe like a drug plot, subplot or something, or maybe that is the main plot. And he's got to make sure that the bar stays on the right side of the law, maybe? Or maybe the cops are maybe the cops are dirty, and they're the ones like supporting like the drug trade, and he's got to, fight dirty cops who are not so I have no idea. It's the 80s, so there's always a drug subplot. I mean, 3 Men and a Baby has a drug subplot for some reason, which is like, why? I don't know. It just does, which confused me as a kid. So I don't know.
Okay.
All right, so let's go watch the movie.
All right.
All right.
Santa can be our regular Saturday night thing. We'll decorate a bar stool and gather round and sing. Oh, let's have a Patrick Swayze Christmas this year. Or we'll tear your throat out and kick you in the ear.
That might be one of the dumbest movies I've ever seen. But in a way, it's one of the purest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah. I feel like it has a lot in common with Predator, in a way.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that it seems to like deal more in just archetypes than characters.
Well, it absolutely, I mean, okay, so first of all, it's not terribly dissimilar from My Darling Clementine. It's not as good as My Darling Clementine, but it's very similar. First things first. Right. And this might be the most important part. Patrick Swayze might be the only person who's ever pulled off wearing a mullet. His hair is amazing.
So what'd you think? I mean, overall.
I don't know what to think. And so, like, again, in a way, it is the most perfect 80s movie I think we'll have seen. Although Predator comes close. I mean, granted, this is only our 5th episode.
The Predator didn't have boobs. Well, not.
But that's what makes this actually.
Boobs.
Yeah, well, yeah. I strive to make this a clean podcast. That is very difficult when it comes to recounting this film.
Yeah.
We will do our best. I mean, my God, it opens with a foot shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the film opens in somewhere USA,
that city,
a large city, where Patrick Swayze is working as, I guess, head bouncer at a very trendy nightclub, I guess, is the idea.
Where your dad would have ended up.
Oh, yeah, right.
Eventually.
Sure.
As he worked his way up the pantheon of bouncers.
Oh, I know, because that's a whole thing. It's as if there is like this like famous, as you say, pantheon of bouncers that everybody knows of and there are rumors of. And everyone's impressed when you say, the name of Dalton or Wade Garrett or,
Dalton's like the Apollo and Wade Garrett is like the Zeus of bouncers in this world.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes you wish there was a sequel with like oh my God, and they brought in this guy.
Dennis, guess what? There is a sequel to Roadhouse.
No, there's not.
I mean, technically there is.
Oh no.
No, we're never going to watch that. I'm trying to think of who I saw was the most famous person in it. Is I feel like maybe Gary Busey.
Oh God.
So no, we will not be watching that. So first of all, let me just say, I had assumed a couple of things that were actually quite wrong about the movie. For whatever reason, I don't know where I got the idea that Sam Elliott is his boss. He is not, although he was apparently a mentor at some point. Yeah. But he doesn't show up until halfway through the film. Apparently there is like originally a 3.5 hour cut of this film, according to Sam Elliott.
The Snyder Cut.
Yeah, I want to see the Snyder Cut of this movie. We can recount the plot briefly. It's not like we need to go into a huge amount of detail.
I feel like it's a little like Yojimbo and Fistful of Dollars.
Oh,
and
no, it's totally, this is, like, I made a joke that this is a Western, but it is a Western.
Yeah.
You know.
Drifter comes in.
Yeah.
There's rival families, sort of, although this is less than that because it, you know, the good guys, I guess,
Yeah.
are like cutouts. Like,
Well, yeah, okay. So
just a bunch of old guys.
it's a bunch of, old guys in this town who are all cowing before Ben Gazzara's, criminal mastermind who kind of runs the town.
Yes.
Thank God Dalton shows up to clean up this town and put him in his place, which in this case ends up being the grave. Although not by his hand, which
Right.
is a twist. It's funny.
Taps into some kind of id. Or something.
Well, it does, but in a way it's kind of a weird thing, because you know what I honestly kept thinking about as we were watching it? Airwolf.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
The whole playing the cello because you're so deep and
Sad.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like if Airwolf had a Hollywood budget. It's that whole I'm a troubled man with a past, but obviously I was in the right the whole time, so it's okay that I have this violent history because it was only in self-defense.
Yeah. There's no arcs in this movie.
No.
No one changes.
Absolutely not. No. Yeah, long story short, he's recruited by I can't remember the actor, but I believe he plays John Locke's father on Lost.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 He's recruited to come and basically clean up the roadhouse that he owns on the edge of this town.
Which is unfortunately populated by young Randy Quaid's.
Yeah, it's an entire stable of Randy Quaid stand-ins. The bar is called the Double Deuce, and it's when we first go in there, I mean, the band is playing behind chicken wire.
Yeah.
And the band, what is it? It's
Jeff Healey.
The Jeff Healey band.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, this is like an actual band.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's, I mean, I'm not saying I haven't been into places like that, but yeah, so it's the type of place where, the band has to be behind chicken wire, and
One waitress is dealing drugs.
one waitress is selling coke. The bartender is skimming from the till, kind of the normal stuff that happens in bars. Women are frequently ending up topless, which I have to say doesn't, these days that'll usually get you kicked out depending on the bar you're in. Although I can think of at least one bar here in Lansdale where that would not get you kicked out of. Yeah, that's the COVID bar, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah.
He takes up residence at a farm. Oh my God, this kills me. So he goes to live at the hayloft, essentially, except this is a completely gorgeous loft apartment over a barn. And they explain it as, well, people don't want to live here because it's got no TV or air conditioning and you can smell the horses. And I'm like, look, I know how horses smell. It's not look, it's better than pig.
Yeah. The thing, like, this could easily be where the love interest lives in a Hallmark Christmas.
Oh yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's that kind of good looking, nice, spacious.
Huge, spacious apartment. It's amazing. And you know what he's paying? $100 a month.
Yeah.
$100 a month? Oh my God. Yeah. I'm just saying, if you jumped ahead only 10 years to when I was in college, you might pay $200 a month to live in a 10 by 6 room with no kitchen. And this guy's got look, never mind. Anyway, so he sets off to clean up the bar. He fires the bartender. The bartender turns out to be the nephew of local businessman / criminal element played by Ben Gazzara, who now decides he has it in for both Dalton, who is Patrick Swayze, and the bar. And so the rest of the film is the war between Patrick Swayze and Ben Gazzara and his henchmen, and he has a lot of henchmen.
And for me, the problem, this should have been a Yojimbo thing where the owner of the bar was
Right.
also kind of crooked. Because, like, you've got that actor. He's great at playing crooked.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there should have been more drama going on there.
Yeah.
But, of course, he just fades.
Yeah, it's
it's
he's very milquetoast through this thing.
But maybe in the 3.5-hour version.
Well, that's what I
there's-
wonder.
yeah.
Like, are there entire things that are missing from the final cut that we have? Now, I will say, I'm glad it's only a 2-hour movie, and in fact, it feels a little overlong because there is a gratuitous amount of explosions and fights. There's a lot of fights in this movie. Now,
Yeah.
don't misunderstand. They're good fights. And let me tell you, I enjoyed every single fight in this movie more than I have enjoyed in a lot of the superhero movies that have come out because these are actual human beings like punching each other as opposed to CGI.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Wonder Woman 84, which I don't even know if there was a fight scene at the end of that because it was so dark. In this, everything is brightly lit and there are guys just beating the hell out of each other. It's
This was
beautiful.
definitely just like a stuntman,
Paradise.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, just an absolute smorgasbord
Yeah.
of stuntmen.
Tables crash,
The sound
bottles crash.
the sound of slabs of beef getting smashed, with fists. It's beautiful. It's a Foley artist's dream. Dalton spends the film basically making friends with, guys like Emmett, the farmer he rents from, Red, the guy who owns the auto body place across from the bar. Then a lot of the film is just sort of atmosphere. Like a scene of Patrick Swayze doing Tai Chi in the most skin-tight sweatpants I have ever seen in my life.
What are they trying to show by him? Like, was it BMW they owned?
Again, finding out that there's a 3.5-hour cut of this film makes me really wonder all of the things that they don't bother explaining. We don't know why he buys some old beater of a car to drive around in when he has a silver Mercedes.
Well, I guess the idea is that he knows, like, he's going to start something and they're going to smash up his car and put knives in the tires and stuff like that. And so he buys, like, a junker to have them do that.
Okay, yeah.
That's why he's like, it's just like the other towns, something like that. But
You're probably right, yeah. Like, I don't know. For some reason, I wasn't entirely sure why he was doing that, but that's me.
But I felt like it was like this kind of 80s thing of, like, you can tell he's a good guy because he's got money,
Yeah, exactly.
And it's honest money.
Right. It's honest money because he earned it with his fists.
Yeah.
But not through tricking anybody.
Yeah.
That's the important thing is the whole point of his character is that he's very upfront about who he is. He's not stealing from the till. He's not doing drugs on the side. He's not anybody's henchman. He doesn't use a gun. He never uses a gun.
Well, he doesn't say that, but he's like Doctor Who in a way, and that he doesn't use a gun, but he's not adverse to violence.
Not the comparison I was expecting, but I'll take it. That's fine. During one of the many fights in this film, he gets knifed. There's a lot of knife violence in this film.
Yeah.
A lot. He gets sliced and has to go to the ER where he is treated by Doc.
She doesn't have a name?
No.
She's just Doc?
She's just Doc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot, because he's always just called Dalton.
That's the thing. There's a lot of people don't really get first or last names, or you just hear one name, or there's a lot of not explaining, And again, I like that we don't get a ton of backstory on anybody. Basically, they have a romance.
There's floozies throwing themselves at him.
But of course,
but
he's too pure to ever take part. But yeah, so when he goes to the doc and gets stitched up, that's when we get the famous line.
Pain don't hurt.
Pain don't hurt.
Yeah. I think this passes for opening up.
Yeah.
The scene, now we get to know who the real Dalton is. He went to NYU to study philosophy.
Right. Yeah. He's deep, man.
Yeah, man.
He's very deep. What do you think that is about wanting to have a hero where I'll beat the hell out of you, but I'm also brilliant? And, I guess it kind of goes back to Doc Savage.
Doc Savage? What's that?
Oh, gosh. Okay, so that goes back to maybe the 30s. It's like pulp entertainment where, on the one hand, he's a rowdy fighting man, but he's also a brilliant scientist type idea.
Okay.
So I guess it's sort of, Dalton is another, like Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah.
So this is like I guess, another iteration of the Doc Savage archetype.
His whole character just seems like it comes out of like some kind of manly commercial, you know?
Oh, yeah. No, there's definitely, again, like the 80s, because it's a reactionary decade and it's turning against a lot of stuff about the 70s that question masculinity, it's sort of reinforcing masculinity, whether you're talking about, like, you know, buff guys like Arnold, who is almost like, I mean, certainly cartoonish too. I mean, Swayze is cut in this movie.
Yeah.
He looks great. But, you know.
That's what this podcast is about, by the way.
Who knew? Who knew? This film, what is interesting is that it is playing off of certain American story archetypes. You know, this is why the 80s to me are kind of interesting, because if the 70s were about a rejection of that kind of storytelling, the 80s are all about like a return to it. I mean, the 80s are an inherently reactionary decade, and the filmmaking in the 80s is often reactionary. And I think Roadhouse is a very good example of that in a not obviously political way, but in a cultural way.
I feel like in the 80s they kept trying to bring back Westerns.
Yeah.
And sort of didn't work because, like, I think everybody wanted to be flashy, and they, you know, and they're so used to muscles and stuff. Westerns just seemed too old-fashioned. So they kept trying it. Like, I remember, like, there was Pale Rider.
Silverado.
There's Silverado. Like, there's a bunch that we'll be seeing.
Yeah, because I've never seen Silverado. Or Pale Rider.
Young Guns.
Never saw that.
Until like, Unforgiven, I think. Like, that was the one where, like, oh, okay, well, we figured it out. And then they dropped it after that.
When you have a movie that wants to work in that milieu, you end up setting it in the 80s in a fictional town in Missouri, so that it's a guy cleaning up a town and a bar. But it is essentially, it's a Western.
Yeah.
Okay. But because it's the 80s, it is a Western with a lot of gratuitous nudity.
Yeah.
Male and female. So, thank you. I appreciate that. Finally, about, I guess, halfway through this movie, we do finally get Sam Elliott, who is essentially his mentor in bouncing.
Yeah.
What is the proper term?
You should know.
Yeah, you would think I would know, but I don't.
Bouncery.
Yes, bouncery. He's great because he's very laconic, but very but funny when he wants to be, and sly, and I can't repeat any of his lines on this podcast, but he's great.
Yeah.
And
he starts hitting on Doc.
He does, but in a way that
funny way.
In a fun way where it's clear that he's not trying to actually steal her from Dalton.
How would you contrast him with his character on Big Lebowski?
I like to think of his character in The Big Lebowski as Wade having ascended into character heaven,
Nirvana,
come back to Earth to act as a guardian angel to the dude.
Yeah.
I've decided that's essentially what happened there.
And beer was traded with sarsaparilla,
Yes.
I guess.
Yes. Because as an angelic being, he can't get drunk anymore.
Nope.
So he changed to sarsaparilla. And he got rid of all the swearing, which...
That's true.
Yes. Again, he is the ascended Wade. Dalton calls up Wade and essentially says, "This is where I am now," and is sort of recruiting him on the sly because he knows he's got his work cut out for him dealing with the Ben Gazzara crime lord. Wade comes up to give him a hand and does, but long story short, it's all for naught because, of course, towards the end of the film, he gets off. Yeah, essentially things spiral further out of control and there's more fights, and Red's auto place is blown up. The auto dealership run by another of the town fathers is threatened by Gazzara's henchmen who drive a Bigfoot through it. Yeah. I believe that's the Bigfoot.
Oh, that was the Bigfoot?
I believe so.
Bigfoot's working for the other side?
Yes. Bigfoot is a villain.
This changes everything.
I know, right? Bigfoot as a villain? It seems so wrong.
As I said, it was Chekhov's monster truck, as we saw it earlier in the movie.
Yes. Yeah, so, Bigfoot, the famous monster car, is used to drive over a bunch of cars in a lot and ruin them. Eventually, Emmett's farm gets blown up. that is the last straw, I guess, between that and Wade is killed. Dalton isn't sure whether Gazzara is going to kill Wade or Doc, and he thinks it's Doc, so he runs off to the hospital, and while he is at the hospital, of course, it's Wade that gets killed.
It's a lot like The Dark Knight.
Yeah, it's a lot like The Dark Knight. Actually, it is kind of like The Dark Knight. I don't even know why I'm mocking you. You're absolutely right. I guess it was when they burned down the farm. He finds one of Gazzara's henchmen who did it, and he kills him there and drags the corpse back over to Gazzara's mansion.
Well, he sends it across the pond.
That's right, because they live across a pond from each other.
Yeah.
And so he sends the body back across the pond, having killed him. And that is sort of what sets off the final confrontation.
I feel like it was kind of a bad move on the movie's part, because this guy is obviously... He was the strongest of the henchmen.
Yeah.
Like, he took 3 of the guys out with, like, a pool cue. Mm-hmm. And he, like, beat up Wade. Mm-hmm. And then he and Dalton were just about to, like, fight. And then the bad guy stops it.
Yeah.
Wesley or whatever.
Yeah.
But then he kills him. And...
Well, but he kills him because the guy was trying to, A, kill him, and B, they had just blown up the farm.
But, like, at the end, when he goes on his rampage, spoiler alert, rampage.
Yes.
And, you know, has to mow through all these other henchmen. Like, we know these guys are chumps.
That's true. That's actually a good point. Yeah.
Like, you know, there's this whole long scene of, like, we're following this one henchman guy, and we're like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
It's just...
That's actually a good point. Yeah, by the time he gets over to Gazzara's mansion to start just laying waste to all of his henchmen, like, he's already beaten the toughest ones. Dalton goes through, kills all the henchmen on his way to get Ben Gazzara, and finally they face off, and he's about to kill him, but he doesn't do it because Dalton has sort of this inner sense of, I guess, morality, and he's like, and because his doc is watching him and he already killed the henchman in front of her, he's horrified and he stops himself, and so Gazzara goes to shoot him.
No, I think he's going to shoot her.
Oh, he's going to shoot her. Well, the point is he's going to shoot somebody. Yeah. And instead, he gets himself shot because finally all of the old men in town who have been cowering from him, so Emmett and Red and the auto dealership guy and somebody else who I can't remember. Oh, the guy who owns the bar. Yeah. That's right. Who barely makes an impression in the film.
Who is supposed to be like a protagonist, I guess, but like he like they don't do anything with him.
Yeah, he's barely a presence in the film.
Yeah.
Anyway, they have all shown up, and between the 4 of them have all unloaded their shotguns into Ben Gazzara. It only took them the entire film to get to this point. They all murder him. And then all of a sudden the cops show up and they all decide they're not going to spill the beans on what exactly happened. And apparently the cops are fine with that. Yeah. So justice in America, I guess, as long as you're a group of, older white guys who own a bunch of businesses in town, you kind of can do anything.
And then the happy ending is that he's swimming naked with her. In the
By
water.
he, you mean Dalton.
Dalton.
Yeah, the happy ending is Dalton and Doc
are
in love and get to skinny dip off into the sunset. Yeah. And that's basically the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So...
I think now that we know about this 3.5 hour, it just feels like a little too much got cut somewhere.
Yeah.
And things just feel kind of detached.
But again, I kind of don't mind that. I mean,
oh yeah,
it definitely feels like there are details that are missing, but frankly, you can fill them in yourself, and I don't need them filled in for me. That's fine. I don't mind that. And other than that, I mean, it's, as you say, nobody has a real arc in this film. It's not that kind of a movie. It's purely an excuse for fists and explosions and both a lot of female top frontal nudity and male backside nudity.
Yeah.
it is perfectly 1980s
Yeah.
in that sense.
So is this our turkey?
Is it a turkey?
Is it a half turkey?
Now here's the thing. I'm a fan of turkey
Yeah.
as both a dish and a film genre.
Right.
So yeah, look, this is an extremely enjoyable bad movie. It is not it's not a good movie. You know, nobody's gonna mistake this for, I don't know, Battleship Potemkin or
What about The Quiet Man?
no, God, no. Look, this is John Ford. This film cries itself to sleep every night wishing it was made by John Ford.
But it certainly borrows a lot of tropes.
Oh,
so.
Look, again, I'm the one who compared it to My Darling Clementine.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. This film wishes. It begs to be compared to John Ford, and so fine, I will. I understand where it's coming from. You know, I don't even know who directed this movie, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it was.
Who cares?
Yeah, it honestly doesn't matter.
I feel like the thing that separates it though is that there's just no history in this. Like you don't feel any sense of place.
No.
You know, it's just.
But I don't want to either.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Like what was that? Silk Stockings.
Yeah.
What was that? Or The Hitcher. Like these were like, what Cinemax shows of the week or something, where it was just kind of like this watered down Michael Mann.
Yeah, this is the hard R Hollywood version of the stuff you would see on Cinemax on late at night. Yeah. I'll say this. I totally get why people like this movie.
Yeah.
I absolutely get it. Yes. It is absolutely enjoyable. Okay, so on the podcast We Hate Movies, they talk about, is this a hangover movie? This is the hangover movie par excellence. You can lay on a couch on a Sunday afternoon, half asleep, nursing your hangover, and watch this movie, and it is thoroughly enjoyable.
Would you watch it again?
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. No. This is, again, it's a dumb movie, but it is enjoyable.
I feel like it's a perfect cable film.
Yes.
Where you catch it like halfway through and you just keep on watching it. Like
Yeah.
It's, oh, that's this.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to watch something really stupid with a lot of explosions and naked bodies.
Yeah. And Jeff Healey.
And the Jeff Healey band for some reason,
Oh, we do have one complaint.
What?
Not enough Keith David.
Not enough Keith David is absolutely right.
Like we saw his name, we're like, oh, and I was like, oh, I can't remember him in the movie, and he's a bartender, and he has like 3 lines.
Exactly, it's so disappointing. And here's the thing: we've seen They Live. We
Yeah.
know he can be in a fight scene.
Yeah.
Why did you not use Keith David?
He's great.
Oh my God. So, next week
Is Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah, man.
We're not flipping any coins.
Nope.
We're diving right into the turkey.
Oh, serve me up those seconds, man.
Ugh. Yeah, because we've had too many good ones, and this one, I feel like this is a good, ease us into the bad movies. It's like, here's a really good bad movie, and now we're gonna slide down into the pit.
Man, you're really selling. You're really selling Maximum Overdrive, man.
You know what? You'll probably like it.
I probably will. Yeah.
I'm looking for bad. I feel like we need more bad to balance this out.
Look, there are a lot of bad movie podcasts. I think if we watch some good films, there's a lot of great movies from the 80s that I've never seen. So,
Yep.
But yes, please, trash is always always welcome.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, until next time.
Yep.
Pain don't hurt.